We're going to have a man who's been with the company for 5 years and is dev lead and senior architect for Atlassian Connect. Please welcome to the stage, Seb Ruiz.
Thanks very much. To begin with, can we just do a bit of reorganization? Can we just get people coming a little bit closer? It just feels really far away, and I want you guys to feel the love of Connect and feel each other's love a bit more. Or don't. You can stay in the corner. That's fine. So as Nick said, oh, where's my clicker? I've been with Atlassian for 5 years in December. I've been around the block a bit. I started as a dev in Fisheye, as a team lead on Stash, and further in my career, I've been writing a lot of plugins. So now I'm on this new team called Atlassian Connect about bringing add-ons into OnDemand. But first, just a bit of a survey. Who here is an OnDemand customer? Awesome. Who here has written a plugin using the traditional plugins 2 framework for Atlassian? Awesome. So roughly the same amount, maybe a little bit of overlap. Doesn't matter if you're not one or the other. I'm going to get into all of that. So today I'm going to speak to you about Atlassian Connect, which is about integrating extensions and customizing Atlassian OnDemand the way you want to. So to do that, we're going to talk about a few things today. Firstly, the plugins framework that exists in Atlassian today, and why it doesn't actually fit with the model of Atlassian's OnDemand platform. We'll move on to why we actually built Atlassian Connect, how we built it, and how it works, and we'll finish up with what you can build, and there'll be an opportunity for you to all ask a few questions should you need. So let's talk about the plugins framework. The plugins framework has served Atlassian really well for a really long time. It's allowed us to develop features and functionality on top of our products without actually changing the products themselves. So we can deploy code into our running instances. You can install plugins onto your behind the firewall on-premises instances and develop them yourself to customize your products. Unfortunately, this doesn't really work in OnDemand for a couple of reasons, and I'm going to get into that with a little bit of a story. So to begin with, I'd like to introduce you to a friend of mine. This is Larry David. Larry David, if you haven't met him, is a fantastic comedian. He is a serial TV writer. He's behind Seinfeld and Curb Your Enthusiasm, and he's possibly one of the funniest men alive. So he gives me a call about a month ago saying, Seb, I've got this great idea for this TV series, but I'm really struggling to figure out how to communicate and collaborate with my team. What can you do for me? You're in this collaboration industry. So of course, I pointed him to Atlassian OnDemand. He gets Jira, he gets Confluence for $10 a month, and he's stoked. He's like, Seb, this is fantastic. A couple of weeks later, he's collaborating with his team, and he really wants to unleash Confluence and Jira. He wants to go to the next level. A mate of his says, Larry, you've got to check out the Atlassian marketplace. You're going to find these wicked add-ons that you can go and extend your instance. So of course, he has a look around and he finds the TV series Creator. It promises to enhance the funniness of his TV series by 10%. It's like, this is amazing. There is no way that I can live without this. I'm getting this onto my OnDemand instance. So he scrolls down, and what does he see? Sorry, not available for OnDemand. What's going on here? He's a bit confused. He clicks on the support tab, finds this ask a question button, and it's like, all right, I'm a good guy. I'm going to ask. So he leaves a comment, a question on Atlassian Answers. I'm sure a lot of you have done this before. Hi, I can't find this plugin for OnDemand. What do I do? Now, as was said this morning, most answers come up within the hour. So within an hour, this is what we get. A link to a page in Confluence which details all of the restrictions that you can't do in OnDemand. You can't do this, we won't do that, you can't do that. And the most important part in there, sorry, you can't install plugins in OnDemand. So he calls me up saying, Seb, what gives? What's going on with your OnDemand instance? I thought I was paying for a Jira and Confluence instance. I want to get the same stuff. And of course, I'm sure a lot of you out there today who are running in OnDemand instances have experienced the same thing. Who wants to put add-ons and plugins in their OnDemand instance? Yeah, all of you, right? Except, you can't. So let's talk about why. So just have a read of this for a second. It's really complicated. There are 2 reasons why we can't do plugins in OnDemand. One half of that is security, and the other half is compatibility, both for us, Atlassian, as a vendor, and for yourselves as customers of OnDemand. So let's talk about security. Security is making sure that one on-demand instance cannot interfere with another instance, ever. That's really important. The most basic fundamental part of Atlassian OnDemand's platform is that it's a shared infrastructure. That means that there are hundreds of Jira and Confluence application instances running on the same physical hardware. Not only are there multiple instances for a particular set of products, but that means they're also shared between customers. So down there, you're running Jira and Confluence. Here we've got a Jira instance. Here we've got another Confluence instance. They're all using the same physical hardware. That means that there are a whole number of shared resources, CPU usage, network usage, disk I/O, RAM, which are shared between all of those instances. Some of these we choose not to restrict and quota per customer or per instance, and others we just downright can't. It would be too difficult, too expensive, too costly to manage these quotas on a per user and per customer basis. So it's really important to understand that, well, let's backtrack. Imagine that I'm down here on this side of the audience sharing a Jira instance with someone on the other side. And I install a plugin onto my Jira instance, and I found it, I wrote it myself. Actually, I got my intern to write it. He's a little bit new, and of course, he slips a few bugs in there, but what we don't realize is that his plugin goes into an infinite loop, and it's using up CPU for everyone, for the entire instance. Now, in an on-premises installation, if I were to install that plugin into an instance of mine that I've downloaded, I can manage that in my own capacity. I can restart the instance. I can delete, uninstall the add-on, the plugin. I can't do that in OnDemand because it's a managed service. So not only does that affect my instance in OnDemand, it affects everybody else's. Imagine if your Jira or Confluence instances in OnDemand went down because of somebody else's negligence that Atlassian can't really control. So of course, while we're talking about security, it would be remiss to not mention an actual security impact. So if we allow customers to upload third-party code onto our OnDemand platform, that essentially compromises the entire platform for us. As managers of this service, we need to make sure that no instance can ever spread or share data between other customers. It would be totally negligent and irresponsible of us to allow that to happen. So uploading third-party code would be a compromise. Excuse me. Second part of that reason that we don't allow add-ons in OnDemand is compatibility. Compatibility is about making sure that when we upgrade OnDemand and understand that Atlassian OnDemand's platform is a managed service. That means Atlassian controls the installations, we control the upgrades, we control the deployments, the maintenance windows. That when we upgrade multiple times a week, we need to know that every single instance of Jira and Confluence and the rest of our products are going to start properly. There is no way we can do that unless we know that every instance is exactly the same. So imagine that there were a handful of instances that were different, that had third-party code uploaded into them. Suddenly, we would deploy a new version of OnDemand, and a handful of those instances might not start. We wouldn't have the confidence that our managed service would be functioning exactly the way that we intended it to. So even 1% of all instances, if they were to break, that would be hundreds of instances that we would need to then manually go and resolve and cause downtime for a lot of our customers. So this is why we've built Atlassian Connect. We needed a new strategy, a new framework to allow our vendors to allow our customers to extend and improve their on-demand offerings the way that they needed to see fit. There are over 1,300 plugins and add-ons on the marketplace today. That's a huge number considering how long the marketplace has really been around. And what's more staggering is the number of downloads or installations of those add-ons. Over 300,000 installations from the marketplace. Now, we see that number going up and up and up. There's no doubt about it, and we want Atlassian OnDemand to be part of that story. As OnDemand grows, we want our ecosystem to grow, we want you to grow with us, and in order to do so, we understand that you're just like Larry, and you want to see on-demand extensions and add-ons. So let's go into the deep details about how this new framework, Atlassian Connect, works. It's really simple, and that's it. So obviously you understand it now, I can go home, right? Yeah. So the important thing to note is that a plugins to plugin runs code in process in the host container, within Jira or within Confluence. With the Atlassian Connect, we've removed the running of the logic of your add-on outside of the on-demand platform. So you see the clouds above on the top of the screen. Those signify the add-ons and where the logic is running. The boxes at the bottom are the on-demand instances, which are not actually running any of that code. This simple architecture means that all of the add-ons communicate with on-demand instances using web APIs, using REST resources and webhooks to push and pull information from those instances. The browsers allow the user to see information and to augment our products in ways that you need to. So Atlassian Connect is a distributed, asynchronous, HTTP-based integrations framework. It sounds like a mouthful, but I'm going to show you how simple it really can be with a little example. So here I've got a Jira view page, and this is showing an add-on that we actually wrote a few weeks ago in one of the ship it days for Atlassian with a focus on Atlassian Connect. In the corner, you can see a panel which shows HipChat discussions. It integrates Jira and allows a user to, at will, start a discussion about their issue. We saw this as a problem. We didn't want to context switch, and I wanted to have a discussion about my issue. So using HipChat, we get live chat within the view issue page. The add-on is hosted remotely. It's not within Jira, and it uses the Jira REST APIs to request a list of all the participants of the issue, mention them, and invite them into a created HipChat room. The users can then communicate with each other, have a little discussion, and when the discussion finishes, a comment is left on the issue which records the history. So a very interesting thing about this add-on is something you will never be able to guess by looking at this screen. You will not know, and that's a fantastic thing. So I'm just going to go out there and tell you. It's written in Node.js. I don't know, for those of you that have written plugins, like P2 plugins with Atlassian, you'll recognize that this is a totally groundbreaking new change for writing add-ons. You can now choose whichever development libraries and stack that fits you. So you can write in Scala, in Ruby, in PHP, or in Grails. We really wanted to open it up and free you from the requirement of the J2EE stack that Atlassian has always required, simply because that's how our tools are built. We've recognized that your systems don't necessarily work the way ours do. Why should we force you to adopt our standards and our technologies? So the second part, which is another massive benefit of writing add-ons with Connect, is that you can actually run your code wherever you want. So you might choose Heroku or Google App Engine or Amazon to host your add-on. These means that they're cheap, they're free, they're scalable, they're really easy to get started with. But You don't have to stop there. You could just as well host your add-on behind your firewall. All right? This is totally groundbreaking because you can now integrate your add-ons, your on-demand instances, with your internally running systems behind your firewall. That might be your HR requisition tools or your budget requirements from your financial planning tools, all within your Jira or Confluence instances in on-demand. So let's talk about some of the cogs and the moving bits in Atlassian Connect. So as I said before, Atlassian Connect add-ons communicate with the products using remote resources, remote APIs. These are the stable product APIs which are exposed to add-ons to allow you to push and pull and update information within the product. We've recognized that our products have become a platform. They're not simply driven via the UI, via a user sitting at the computer with their web browser. And we're leveraging Atlassian Connect to build these RESTful APIs and these resources for add-ons to use. As we build more and more features in our products, they're being built off the backing of remote APIs. And the more of those we build, the more of those become available as stable APIs for Connect add-ons. We've really committed to doing this. Here you can see a screenshot of a new and improved REST API browser, which allows you to explore and interact with the remote APIs that are available in the products. We're also beginning to write, or in the middle of writing, Confluence REST APIs. I know a lot of you have expressed a little bit of discomfort using the Confluence XML RPC APIs that have been in Confluence for quite a while. So that's really exciting and really important commitment from us. Of course, being able to push and pull information from a product is not just important, but crucial. But we recognize that you want to be notified when important events happen in the products. So webhooks are that. These are asynchronous notifications of important lifecycle events in the products. These might be page-created events in Confluence or new projects in Jira or new issues. In fact, here is an example of an issue-created webhook. What happens is that an event will get serialized into a JSON payload and delivered to your add-on. Your add-on might choose to consume that information in a number of different ways. For example, store the information, index it, perform some action on another system. It might choose to keep track of something, but it might also choose to react in the product. For example, leave a comment based back on a Jira issue page. And finally, tying these all together are page components. Page components are the glue that allow your users to interact with your add-on within the products. So here you can see some examples. In Jira, the issue panel pages, the view issue tabs, global navigation. These are rendered using web items and web panels with iframes, so they're totally secure and sandboxed. That means that your add-on is protected from the changes around itself in Jira, and Jira is and Confluence, the products, are protected from changes in your add-on. So I'm sure a lot of you who have ever managed plugin instances and upgrades of Jira and Confluence instances behind the firewall have come into pain when you upgrade your product and suddenly things are broken or your add-ons are broken, and it's a bit of a pain. Atlassian Connect solves that problem as well. So here you can see a couple of Confluence examples too. We have macros, sidebar elements, navigation elements, admin pages, configurations as well. So we have quite a comprehensive suite of integration points. So let's go into a little bit more of a detailed example of a Connect add-on which I've been building. So I have this problem when I use Jira. And that problem is that I'm often leaving comments and nobody responds to them. So I built an add-on which allows me to nudge other participants in my issue. Everything in this red box, the red box doesn't exist. is actually loaded from the remote host. So that's hosted in Heroku. When the Jira issue page loads, my content also loads, and it will request a list of participants of the issue via the REST resources in Jira. Using AUI and the Atlassian user interface, I can render them in a way that makes my add-on look and feel as if it was part of the product itself. And that's really important because I don't want my users to feel alienated, and I want to make something that looks professional. Now, when I use the add-on, I'm going to click on the link next to a user that says nudge. That's going to notify my add-on, go directly back to my host, and say, hey, can you send an email to Jonathan? Jonathan needs to be nudged. The add-on will send an email, and then at some point in the future, hopefully, Jonathan's around, he responds to the email, and he leaves a comment. Cool, sounds great. Now, at this point, my add-on really needs to be aware that a comment has been added to update itself properly. So it's subscribed to a webhook, to the comment added webhook, and when the comment is added, the notification fires to the add-on, and then my add-on can update itself in the page. So doing this, we can also implement live updates in our systems really easily. There's no need to go through Jira or through Confluence to dynamic updates of the views in our pages. So let's quickly summarize that. Firstly, my add-on was able to render a secure and sandbox interface in the product using plugin points that we've made available. They've been able to relay contextual information to the product using stable REST APIs. Of those, we're growing more and more of them. And my add-on was able to respond to important product lifecycle events by subscribing to webhooks. So let's quickly go over what you can actually build today and what we're hoping you can build. So we've identified 3 broad categories of add-ons that we believe that you can build today. The first are integrations, the second are reporting functionality, and finally automations. So integrations are about tying 2 different types of services together. In this example, I've got Confluence listing documents that are inside of a Google Drive folder. So I can list all of my documents, I can collaborate on them with my employees, I can also see a preview of these. You could choose to integrate whatever services you like. They might, as I said before, maybe imagine seeing your budget finance for the next month in a Confluence page, or all of the upcoming hires you've got, or tying together your own custom build. Or maybe there's a web service out there that you really want to integrate to your Jira or Confluence instance. There's nothing stopping you from doing that now. Secondly is reporting. We really believe that Jira and Confluence are a huge wealth of information. If you think about it, we just include so much data into our instances: issues, history, pages, documents. Atlassian Connect allows you to extract that data from your instances. You can then take that data, process it, and respond. So here what you're seeing is a Connect add-on which is available today. It's called Easy BI, which shows business information, business intelligence metrics about your Jira instance. This is all within Jira, and it's actually hosted remotely. So the code is not actually running within the product. That means you can use these sorts of tools in OnDemand today. And finally, automations. This is really we want you to use Atlassian Connect as a glue, to really combine everything and to function as wiring between your projects, to use events, to communicate, and to tie everything together. That might be mirroring 2 different Jira projects between an external and an internal representation, perhaps between a Google spreadsheet that you might use to create metrics and convert them into a Confluence page. Really, the options are all yours. Of course, it would be hard to do that if we didn't give you a starting point. So we've actually built 2 client libraries to help you do that. The first is in Node.js, which is server-side JavaScript. And the second is in Play, which is a Java and Scala framework that might be a little bit more familiar to those of you from a plugin, from a typical Atlassian plugin perspective. Both of them handle a lot of boilerplate and a lot of convenience, such as registering your add-ons, managing authentication and security, and also helping you deploy these add-ons by themselves. So should you decide to provide some of your add-ons into the marketplace for the world to use, the marketplace is really, at the moment, 100% capable of managing your on-demand add-ons. They're exactly the same as your traditional plugins. Larry is super excited. He's now able to install his add-on in his on-demand instance, and now you can as well. And I really would love to see all of you venturing down that path, looking into the Atlassian Connect framework to really help you open up your instances. So really, Atlassian Connect allows you to unleash your data. We've built this incredible framework to allow you to build add-ons in on-demand without sacrificing compatibility or security for our platform. And it's growing and growing every day. So I'd love to hear from you. If you've got more questions, I'm going to open up the floor. And just to say thank you very much. That's Atlassian Connect. Please come chat to me.
All right, thank you, Seb. So that's exciting news. We're really excited to have Connect in beta and some new add-ons for on-demand launched on Marketplace and available today. It's quite possible that this discussion stimulated some thoughts and some questions in your minds, and we've got about 10 minutes to go ahead and have a good open discussion now. So there's 2 of us running mics. You've got your hand up first in the middle. I'll bring one over and let's get started.
Sorry? We're not supporting Bamboo yet. We're just bringing it to Jira and Confluence. We are going to be expanding that once we are comfortable with the direction that we need to take for Bamboo. So Bamboo is a bit tricky with the way that builds are run. Making a lot of that remote and asynchronous poses its own challenges.
I was wondering why we have to wait for the on-premise installations to be more secure with using that technology for add-ons instead of using it on demand right now. Why don't we get the same for on-premise right now?
So
What's
are you
the
asking
strategy?
Why can't we use Connect on-premises?
Yeah.
It's a good question. And
because security-wise, I
Yeah.
have to trust every plugin vendor at the moment, and it's not so isolated.
So there's no reason that we can't. We're building we have built Connect in a way which is 100% compatible with on-premises installations, but we're just trying to minimize the scope. So, for example, we know that Atlassian Connect is always running the same version of the Atlassian Connect framework. That would be another complexity to manage if we supported Connect behind the on-premises installation. So we will be delivering Connect to on-premises, just not in the next few months.
A couple questions here. Obviously, folks have spent a great deal of time and effort with their existing plugins. Are you guys going to have any kind of tools to help do some of that porting? And number 2 is, with your described libraries that you have for Play and Node, are you guys considering, having hosted environments for those things to be deployed to instead of spinning up those things on your own?
Okay, so the first question on supporting a migration path from traditional plugins, not yet. We do believe that they are very separate problems. We did try, though, and in all transparency and honesty, the first cut of what became Atlassian Connect was a framework that allows you to run a plugin both in the container as well as outside of the container remotely. And that proved to be an incredibly difficult problem to solve. So we did reduce the size of the project. We don't have plans to support a migration path yet, simply because we don't know how that looks. There are very different problems to solve in plugins that can run in process that, in honesty, we may never be able to solve in a remote fashion. But time will tell, and we're just focusing on the bigger, more important things first for us. And the second question was, sorry, I blanked.
The libraries for Play
That's
and Node,
right.
if you're
Yep.
going to have like hosting
Sorry.
environments for that.
So Atlassian Platform as a Service, we call it APaaS. You heard it here first? No, not yet. So there are so many really good solutions for that. There's Heroku, there's Google App Engine, there's Amazon, and those businesses are built around being the best platforms as a service out there. That's not our market at the moment. It doesn't make sense for us to invest more time in doing a worse job at something and not investing in the framework itself. So we'd rather build a better framework and leave the platform as a service problem to people who are really good at it and who have already solved the problem. That might change in the near future.
First,
Just lift the
two-
mic up. No,
oh,
just
hello?
yeah.
Can you hear me now? Sorry about that. First thing I'm going to ask is, just as a point of clarification, it's the same REST APIs we all know and love. So that's
Yes.
that's the same. The things that make it connect are the hooks and the iframe. I mean, I'm like, that's what makes it. That is what's new.
So
right
there's
now?
a little bit more to it. There's also a layer of security authentication on top of the REST, remote REST calls as well. I haven't gone into that because that's very technical, and all of that is applied. But yes, there's also the webhooks and the page components, so the
Got it.
integrations. Yeah.
And then the last part of this, the last part of your presentation, you went on how you can now sell the plugins on the marketplace.
Yes.
So if they deploy into Amazon and you pick which ones, as a plugin provider, you have to host it for each customer, and then you got to create your own framework.
No. So the
ahead.
model that we've taken is that your add-on should be multi-tenant, so that you have one instance, and as a service, as a web service provider, you should be handling multiple customers.
But like you have to make sure that if you do it in like the Google App Engine or Heroku, that it can scale there
Yes.
and be multi-tenant, and you have to be responsible for that basically.
Yes.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
So they are new problems to solve, but it is a new space as well.
Quick question, or actually two. First off, Heroku, Amazon, these other platforms don't necessarily follow any sort of costing model that mimics Atlassian at all. So if I have a wildly successful plugin and there's a lot of traffic from a couple of instances, or is there any model where Marketplace is going to be able to allow me to offer usage-based pricing, cloud usage-based models? The other side of it is, I've done plugin development for a while, and I remember back when the API had certain deficiencies, that you could do things in plugins that you just could not do in the API. Do we have a list of those deficiencies, and is there a plan to address those in terms of being able to offer these same plugin functionalities within the Connect?
So I'll answer the technical parts first, and then maybe Nick, you should answer the billing. In terms of the deficiencies for APIs, yes, we are aware of a lot of them, and scheduling those is happening, and prioritization of those is something we're doing. So we are actively working on bringing new add-ons, new types of add-ons, new integration points, and that comes with new REST endpoints as well, because you can't do anything in Connect without having the proper remote resources available. So if those aren't available, we're going to be building them with the products. That's happening now, today. And is there a list of them? No, but if there are some which are more important to you than others, you should let us know.
Okay.
My turn. Good. So you asked a good question, right? On the business front, what if I write an add-on using Connect that ends up being purchased by a creative agency, and they write a bunch of, I don't know, they create a bunch of gigantic Illustrator files, and it ends up stuffed in my add-on, and 10 people create gigabytes and gigabytes of storage, right? In that world, it's quite possible that a per user price doesn't necessarily reflect the costs that you incur on supporting that particular add-on. Now, some other customer might have 1,000 users and they don't do anything like that, and that's pure cream, right? So I think it's very fair and very clear to point that out. It's also very fair to point out that we haven't completely resolved those kind of questions yet. But never say never, right? Today we have one model, one licensing strategy, which is in sync with Atlassian products. If the customer has a 10-seat Jira, if they have a 100-seat Confluence, if they have a 500-seat whatever, the add-on has the same license. That may not necessarily be the case in future. We think that Connect will change the game generally across the board, and this is one of the areas that we're going to have to look at. So I got nothing to promise today, but I'd love to talk to you afterwards, Blake, and get your feedback.
So I actually got 2 questions, since we get to ask multiple questions. The first one, are you guys doing any rate limiting on the REST calls?
Any rate limiting?
Yeah.
Not yet. We have spoken about it, and it's a really big problem is that we don't want to allow particular add-ons to DOS on-demand instances. There is no current implementation for it, but it is something on our to-do list.
Second question, what about configuration data? If I'm writing this awesome add-on and I need to store a little bit of data, not huge amounts, and when people save off their projects or they want to take their on-demand project off, now they're not actually going to get that configuration data if I have it stored over my database, because, well, one, you don't support the behind the firewall premises to run stuff.
So when we support on-premises, we'll handle that story as well, the migration story as well.
Okay.
In one slide, there was the possibility to use on-demand behind the firewall, but this is related to the fact that you can use a Connect on-premises server, so it's future things.
No, so you can currently write a Connect add-on which runs within your network. And then that Connect add-on can communicate and inject and interact with your on-demand instance. So that's not about taking the on-demand instance and running it within the firewall.
Okay, we got time for one more quick question. I just want to add one thing to that. Go talk to a vendor on the floor here called Eucalyptus. They have really interesting stuff that allows you to migrate applications between AWS and internal private cloud infrastructure. And I think there's probably going to be a bunch of those in future. You should have a chat with them. One more question.
Yeah. So I'm hearing all this stuff now and it's starting to kind of get through my head here. So if we write these Connect plugins and we write them in a multi-tenant fashion and we sell them, that's one more thing where someone who purchases one of those things, they have to now be able to trust not only Atlassian, which they do because we're a big company, you're trustworthy. Now they have to know the trustworthiness of the provider and of the plugin. So they have to be able to trust that they trust Amazon or they trust Roku, and then they trust the person that you wrote or the company that writes. So all these trust levels and like.
You're 100% correct.
Yes.
And that comes with the territory of being in web service.
Got it. But this is the thing where there might maybe in the marketplace there would be an extra rating for, you know, like the plugin quality and stuff like that. Anyways.
Okay, so one last quick answer. You might have missed the Ecosystem State of the Union session that Jonathan Nolan gave in here earlier. Okay, in that session, he announced that later this fall we will release a program called Atlassian Verified, and its intent is to do exactly what you just described. So there will be some process that we're finalizing all the details on, information that vendors give us. We can pass that to a customer and give some kind of a stamp of approval. You got it. Okay. Well, that's all we have time for today. I'd love to give Seb a quick round of applause. Thank you, everyone.